Hello there. I am so happy to have someone that I've known for a long time. She's here on the show today. She's an amazing person. I met her years ago, actually, working on the island of Maui. We didn't meet on Maui, but we had both been there and then we connected afterwards, and she became a coach of mine. Her name is Stephanie Beeby, and she's known as the Intuitive Guide and Strategist for people who are committed to changing the world. Ah, she's the founder of Inflow CEO Consulting, and that's a company committed to the growth and empowerment of visionary, gifted entrepreneurs around the globe. Stephanie shares high-level cutting-edge energy and meets business strategies and transformational techniques to shift mindsets, build emotional intelligence and emotional resiliency. And I think you're just going to absolutely love her. So I really want to give her a warm welcome today. Welcome,
Oh,
Stephanie, to say yes to your soul.
yes. Hi, Tessa. Thank you so much for creating this cool platform. What a cool. Let's all say yes to our soul. Yes, I
Yes,
love that.
right?
That will change the world, right?
Who's
That
going to
will
say
change
no
the
to
world.
that? Yeah.
Right.
Well, we know who would do that, and we're not interested in them. So, I know a lot about you. You're highly intuitive. It's one of the things that I really appreciated when I was working
Mm,
with you. When you were my business coach for a number of years, and I've gotten to know you living on the island of Hawaii as well, getting to know you more, and even stayed in your house for a while. That was amazing.
right. Yeah.
But, and you're extremely gifted person and very intelligent. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, highly intuitive. And I also know that before all that, before the Stephanie that we know today, there was a
Yeah.
different story. There was something else happening. And I know that our listeners here would really love to hear about what that was and how you eventually overcame that in your life.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Like, yeah, I think you sometimes see the end result of people's lives and you always wonder, like, have they always been there? Has that always been them? And it's true. I think an aspect of us has been, but for me, I think one of the biggest challenges was I was the only girl in my family. And so I was the one that was tuned in and seeing things that nobody outside of me could validate. Right. And so I kind of got this persona of being too much because I
Mm.
saw things, I said things, I was feeling things that most people, especially in my family, weren't doing. So I kind of had to shed, not kind of, I did have to, because, you learn what you learn in a persona of your family, and then you go out in the world. And what happens is if you hold a certain vibrational persona, you kind of start hitting up on the same type of thing. So I went into corporate, same kind of energy, right? That masculine energy, like you're too much,
Yes.
you're feeling too much, you're bringing up too much, you're intense. And being a woman, being a young woman, I didn't know, I thought something was wrong with me. It's like, why do I feel so much? Why am I seeing this stuff? Why do I know things? Like I would ask questions to people and people would be breaking down in tears in business meetings. And they're like, why are you asking me that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, because I wasn't aware that this was a gift. Like, I wasn't
Mm.
aware that my highly sensitive nature was actually a gift, that I was connecting and present when most people were shut down and shut off and like kind of going in robotic mode. And I just never did that. So I kind of lived with my stuff like out and here and be. And then I started to find people that were like me. And then I was like, oh shit, this isn't so bad. But I had to really work on that inner persona and I had to learn boundaries. I had to learn when to share, when not to share, how to hold and contain that energy in my nervous system. I mean, there's so many things that I had to grow from in that. Uh, because they're right. Like just because I'm intuitive doesn't mean I need to share it. Doesn't mean I need to say it at a party. And I had to like learn etiquette, right? At some level, I had to learn etiquette on how to contain my energy, how to share my energy. And part of that was also honoring who I am in my giftedness and seeing myself that this is like actually special and not a curse, right? I don't know if anyone else has felt that way,
Oh
but
my
sometimes I'm
goodness,
like, oh my
yes.
God, this is a fucking curse. Like, who the fuck wants this? but I now would never change it. I love me. I love being connected. I love feeling energy because I can contain it, because I know what to do with it, because I have healthy boundaries. But I had to like evolve into that, right?
Yes, of course. Now, but I do want to make a comment because as you were speaking, you brought up this idea, and I don't know if you've already created this or not, but it seems like you could have a product called Party Etiquette for intuitives,
Oh,
right? How not to screw up
cute.
your personal life.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so where were some of the places, like what were some of the things that you did make messy? Because before you learned all the boundaries, like were there some
Oh,
harsh
well,
times with
I don't know.
friends, with
Dating,
lovers?
dating,
Yes,
dating was
dating.
where I made it very messy, very messy. I didn't, yes, like I definitely didn't have clear boundaries on what I was reading. I was attracting men that were needed a lot of energy, and then my too muchness, right? Like it was a lot. And I thought, again, when you're in that scene where you keep, because we're creators. So in my creation, I was like, oh, something's wrong, something's here, instead of realizing like, oh, I'm picking the prototypes of my dad. Like, right, I'm like living this thing. Like, of course
Mm,
they can't see me, of course they're not developing their own emotional awareness. Like, I wasn't picking men that were capable of that. I was playing out the same dance. And part of that was my ownership of, oh, I'm choosing these types of men. And I made it messy because I didn't have clear boundaries, and I made it messy because I was playing out a narrative that was unconscious to me. And when I started to become conscious of it, I realized I didn't have to pick these men. Like, I could pick men that were already on their spiritual journey. I did not have to be the catalyst to their spiritual journey. I did not have to heal, I mean, well, I probably shouldn't say that, but I was like, I said to my guidance, like, this is a slow process of trying to like raise the world. I can't, you know, date each man and transform him it with a kiss, right? Like I keep kissing these men. I'm like, am I upgrading them? Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like one guy at a time, just kissing and updating? Like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in that role. And then I realized I don't have to be in that role. I can stop kissing these men. You know what I mean? So,
yes,
yes.
that's amazing. So, what finally got you to that place of consciousness, do you think?
Unfortunately, it was lost. My dad died. He physically died. I was 27 years old, about to go through Saturn return,
Yeah, you're
and he
young.
died. And I was young, and I wasn't married. I didn't have babies. I didn't have any of the story, right? I was that late. Seriously, I was the person that when I finally did get married and have a kid, my family, who was my niece who was 10, she goes, oh man, we never thought, Auntie, we never thought you'd get married and have a kid. I mean, that was the story in my family. I was kind of like the rogue, right? Like, I traveled and I went around the world. I moved out of the state. Like, I was just different, and I led my life that way. And no one thought I was going to be traditional in any way, shape, or form. And so at 27, I definitely didn't have that story. And so what happens is when your father or someone prominent in your life dies, because I know death is definitely the sacred medicine in my life that has caused me to evolve. When I had to look at some of the stories, I had to look at, like, my dad's never going to walk me down the aisle. Even if I never thought I was going to get married, it was weird. Like, there was these programs
Yeah.
of conditioning that, like, I never get to do this with I know. And like, my friends would literally edit shows for me and say, don't watch Grey's Anatomy, like, because there'd be a wedding. And I would flip the fuck out. Like, if I saw a wedding and a
Oh my
dad walk the
goodness.
aisle, and they would
So
scream
you
things
were
from,
almost like PTSD.
oh,
There were
absolutely.
too
Excuse
many
me.
triggers out
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes, I was triggered by any dad daughter stuff. Dad daughter stuff, even if it was nothing. What's so crazy is I never had a vision of my dad walking around the aisle until he couldn't do it, until it wasn't part of it. It was very
Mm,
fascinating to look at some of our deep inner programming of that little girl and her dreams. And I didn't even know I had those dreams. I didn't even know that was part of my story until it was taken away. Right.
yes.
That's the thing. And then the other thing that happened was I am gifted. I am in tune. My dad was coming to me in visions. My dad was coming to me in dreams. I was dialoguing with my dad more. I mean, my dad was a very stoic man. I loved him, but he was more of the acts of service guy. He wasn't a big language guy. On the other side, he talked all the time. He was like, I understand you. I mean, he was downloading. He was like, I see you so much bigger on this side. Like, and we ended up becoming this relationship. But I came from a very Christian Catholic family on one side and the other. And they saw this as witchcraft, right? Like they saw this as this was a thing. Like I was
Mm.
bad. I was bad that I was, oh, that's a devil. That's someone pretending
Oh, we
like
have
I'm
to get it out
innocent.
of her. I mean,
Yeah, well, like
people
no, it
can
was
be
like don't
really
talk to, that's
drastic.
a demon. That's coming to you as your dad so that it's deceiving you. Like this is what's happening. So there's nothing in my family. I can't tell them what my healing
Oh,
experience is, right? Like I had to kind of
right.
isolate and be on my own journey. And luckily, I had people like you and other people in my life that speak this language and was normalizing it. But I was very different in my grief process than my family because I was actually more connected to, and I still feel this way. I feel more connected to my dad on the other side than I ever did in person. And then obviously 5 years after him, I had this big premonition and found out that there was no way I could be who I am in the world today fully without dad dying because I would have unconsciously wanted to perform for him and wanted to be the good daughter and stayed in corporate and did the other things I was on the path for doing, unconsciously trying to earn dad's love, which I had no idea until he died that that was all here. You know what I mean? That that was all
Right.
here. Yeah.
So how
It,
did you comfort yourself? Like, because that must have been really confusing. You're having this great relationship with him, but you can't talk about it, and because you're going to be criticized and made out to be a problematic
yeah.
person. Don't listen to
It
her;
wasn't
she needs to
safe.
be fixed. It wasn't safe at all. And so, what really supported you other than these conversations with your dad? Was there something else that supported you in starting to trust who you really were and to give up that persona?
Well, I'm going to be honest. It gets even messier. It gets messy. I had, so my brother was murdered when I was 18, so I know death and I know that process. When my dad died 9 years later, I, it was even more intensified, right? And I went in this very dark journey. I mean, I went dark before I started talking to dad. Like, and in that darkness, I didn't want to be here. It's going to make me cry now. I just, it was a lot. It was a lot for my soul. It was a lot for my body. Like I had done this, I'm done. And I was facing all this programming, right? All this stuff. And I was good at my job. And thank God my job gave me some sort of understanding and appreciation of my contribution. But then I was separated from my family. So honestly, it came down to one day I was like, I'm done. And I want to go. I'm going to, and I started thinking of ways in which I was going to exit my body and exit the planet. And I started writing a letter about it to whoever was going to read it after I was gone
Oh my goodness.
and start writing this letter. And then it becomes a letter to my dad and like all this stuff that was there. And then I basically just said, and then it became a letter to God. And I was like, unless you show me that I'm supposed to be here, like, I'm done. I'm done. And in that moment, I closed my eyes and I saw this vision. And it was like me in like a lagoon, like an ocean lagoon. It was definitely ocean, not lake. There was waves. And there was like, I wouldn't say millions of people, I'd say tens of thousands of people standing in the actual lagoon with the water up to their knee and their right hand out with a flame in their hand. And I was on the beach. And my flame wasn't in my hand, my flame was in my body. And I stood there looking at them, and then I had angel wings and they flipped, it went like this and flipped my fan out, my flame out, and the ripple effect of the flames in front of me. And some went out completely, some dimmed, some never started. And in that moment, I knew I mattered. And I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know what that meant for me staying on the planet. But I said, all right, I'll give you another year. All right, I'll give you another year. You better fucking show me. Like, and in that vision, I mean, I knew we all matter. Like, I think we all matter. I think we all have contracts and influences and people that we touch, whether it's the guy at the grocery store or the guy, like, I don't think it has to be just people we know. I think we impact people every day. And I started to live with this like knowledge that like, I matter. Like, what would it look like if I actually chose to matter? You know?
That's a beautiful question.
And that changed my life because I started to live with consciousness of like, oh, I actually matter. Like, oh, I actually like when I speak it I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm choosing what to say. Like I'm not looking for things outside of me. And this is my Saturn return, right? So like I'm literally letting
Mhm.
go and shedding old versions of myself and I'm birthing new versions of myself. And that was part of it. But I also got visited. I'm not going to lie. I got visited by a being and they worked through with me through that year and at different moments and telepathically telling me they're upgrading me and all this stuff. And then I had my magical son and at 34 and he cemented this new version of me. I mean, he's gifted and came out with deep awareness and communication and we have an awesome bond and he's telling me things that I'm learning from him. So,
Yes, he's a
yeah.
very gifted young man.
He's 11 now,
Oh my
Tessa.
gosh.
11.
Incredible. Very, very intense, right? So you were right there. You're like, show me the evidence. Like, I need something. And you got it, which is really
Mhm.
beautiful. And I think that I'd like to highlight that because so often when we are in pain, or people that I see now who are in pain, there's a tendency to close down, right? And instead of actually speaking with, connecting with the higher guidance that's actually there for us.
Mhm.
And I know this for myself as well. I did some deal making back in my time, you know. I'm going to
Right.
check out if this doesn't happen by blah blah blah, right? But it's good to get to that point and stop there, right?
Mhm.
Like if we're going to be on that dark journey and go into that pain, place of pain, then we must have a stopping place where we do something different and
Right.
not just like get committed to some random action that's going to be devastating and is going to be once
Yeah.
and for all, because there never is, I think, a once and for all,
Right.
right? There's
There's not.
always opportunity opening up. We just can't see it in our
Yeah.
pain. And you know that better than anybody now. You know that everything
Yeah.
is connected and so many opportunities have unfolded for you.
Hmm. Absolutely. And to be honest, you know, I know we don't like to go through hard shit, but the hard shit made me cool. I mean, I hate to say it, but it built character. It built perspective. It built compassion. It built empathy.
Yes.
It built a connection with
Yes.
myself that I didn't know I needed, and part of that was like this journey of constantly tuning into myself and saying, what do you need? What do you want? Because to be honest, as an empath, growing up in a family with boys who were not tuned in, I was conditioned to tune into everyone else's needs prior to my own. And I had to learn to tune into me, not over them, but included in.
Yes. Inclusive.
Yes. And I had to honor that my too muchness was too much for some people. Like I had to honor that not because my character's too much, but because my energy can be too much for some people who aren't in their own field. Like my passion, my clarity, all that would drive you fucking nuts if you're lost and you want to be quiet. And like if you're in the library and I'm at a party and our energies come together and you're in the library and no one's talking and then I'm at a party energy, like those just don't match. And I would be too much for the library. And that doesn't mean I'm too much. And I had to
Exactly.
like
Yes.
distinguish those two differences, right? So I had to like really understand how I had been programming my character and the view of myself based on other people's responses. And I had to take ownership of that back. I had to say, wait a second, turn the fucking page. Who are you wanting to be? If you mattered, what do you want for your life? If you die early, what do you want to stand for? It's not about other people anymore. It's about you. Like, this is your fucking life. So you get to be who you want to be on your terms if you choose it. And I had to choose it. And I continue to choose it. I choose it every day about what's important to me, what choices, what does it say about me? Is this the character I want to be? Is this the person that loves herself? Would a person who loves herself make this choice?
Oh my
Those are the
God.
things
These
I
are
ask
such
myself.
fabulous questions, right? Like, even if somebody were just to take that question and work with that every day of their lives, is this the person I want to be? Right? Is this the person that I love to be?
Yes. Am I
and
proud
show
of
up
this
that
person?
way.
Would this person make me proud? Does this choice make me proud? Do I want to
Yes.
like flat, be like, this is me, look how cool I am? And if not, ask why not? Why am I making choices that don't make me proud? Why am I choosing things that don't make me love myself? Why am I needing to hide this part of me? Like, is there a different aspect? What would I need? What permission do I need to be the
Mm.
person I'm proud of? What permission do I need to be the person I love? Be the person you love. I promise you, that's never going to get you wrong. You truly love yourself and you show up loving yourself, you're going to make loving choices. You're going to choose people who love you too. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to be real. We sometimes have a program of toxic love, right? We do. And you have to
Absolutely.
challenge that. You have to be like, wait a second, what is safe, healthy love to me? And am I modeling that for myself? Because we sometimes get programmed in a really unhealthy, I don't even think it's love, but we call it that, where it's
It's
codependent and tuned into other people and making other people happy and, earning our rights and all that. And that's not what I'm talking about. True love, if you really look at the people that are safest to you, that love you, they accept you for where you are. They talk kindly to you. They show up for you when you need them. Are we doing that to ourselves? Are you showing up for yourself when you need it the most? Are you talking kindly to yourself? Like, those are things that are traits of a person that loves themselves. And the more you do that, you're going to recognize what's not love. Like, right? Like when we create that resonance of love
totally.
within, it's like you just get it. You're like, that's not a loving thing. And I don't need to be around you because I'm used to being in a loving environment. And what you're producing is not a loving environment. And I get to have choice here. And I started to look for that. I started to see choice from a place of I matter, and it changed my life. I gained more power.
I love that. Choice from a place of I matter.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm hearing your passion embedded through all of this, of course, and I love your energy. The the concept of soul, like, can you weave that in for us? Can you help us understand, like, for you, how did that start to show up, and what did it mean for you in your journey of choice?
Hmm. Great question. I don't think I've ever been asked this. Let me just tune in for a moment and see what soul wants to say, right?
Yeah.
Um, so for me, what I'm being shown is like I was prior to that I matter piece. I was operating from a place of I don't matter. And the I don't matter was a persona or like a pro. It was like the best way I can say it is if you picked up sand from the beach and you're holding the sand, like that I don't matter was like the sand in my hand. And the soul is the whole beach.
Mm.
And so it was this idea that like I kept seeing myself as the sand in my hand instead of where I got it from. Right? And so it was kind of like, so you're the whole beach. And the soul is the body, it is the mind, it is the heart. Like it actually is the energy that runs it all. We're never really separate. We just think we are. And I think that's the
Yes.
point, right? So like when we're living by soul, when we're saying yes to soul, we're recognizing that there is a deeper, honoring, bigger energy that runs all of our coolest systems. And instead of being the systems themselves. And I think that's for me, that's what it is.
That's amazing. I love how you just described that. I think that is a beautiful way to think of it. I've been sort of exploring different concepts of what soul is, and this is my work, right? My life's work. And I'm gonna I'm gonna take that on,
Please
Stephanie,
do.
because that's
Inspire other
really
people.
beautiful. Yes, and I agree with you. The soul is there. We just get in the way of it. With rules and all kinds
Well,
of judgments and criticisms.
absolutely. Yeah, conditioning is a big part,
Yes.
but when we create capacity to be like to matter. See, that's the thing is when I'm in this when the sand is in my hand, I don't matter. I'm just this little thing.
This little thing, it can fall through the cracks, it
Yeah,
can fall,
I can't even
go
hold it
away. It's
well.
nothing.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I am this like little tiny piece instead of realizing this tiny piece is it all. And like, holy crap, like I show up to matter, I make ripple effects. I make change I will never see. Like I always hope, well, you know what? I change people's lives and will never get that feedback because I show up from a loving way. Because I don't yell at people just because I'm frustrated, because I can contain my energy. I can communicate. Say, you know what? This conversation's not gelling. I don't love it. I'm spicy. It's triggering me because I'm aware of myself and know what's going on. But I know that I can't just lash out that person because I know my power. I know I matter. And if I do that, it's going to create a ripple effect that I don't want to be a part of. Right. And so when we start to actually fuel ourselves from this place of I matter and that my soul is bigger than I could even understand, but my presence carries me and my imprint is on everything. And if I choose to do this and love myself in it, not shame, blame, judge myself when I fuck up, because let's be real, when I started doing this, I got it wrong. I got it wrong a lot. But you know what? I don't believe in getting it wrong. I believe that when we show up and try, it's beautiful. And there's a lot of information. And this is experimenting with soul, right? We're experimenting with self expression. We're experimenting with self love. We don't get it wrong unless we quit. This is just information. Like, what did I learn here?
Yes.
Oh, let's stop picking the same type of guy. Let's see what happens if I don't pick that guy in a different body multiple times. Like, what if I don't pick that kind of guy? And I pick a guy who's already connected to their soul, that they don't need me to catalyze that experience, that they're already on their path. What would that look like? And I had one of the best relationships of my life. And he was beautiful. He didn't want a child, and that, shifted our lives. But to be honest, one of the healthiest examples of what I know and hold for what partnership is. And he was beautiful. And it came from me shifting gears, me choosing differently, me knowing that I have the power to do that, and recognizing that you are powerful even when you don't feel it. So, like, even when I don't feel powerful,
Yes.
I know I am. And I just have to come back to that I am, that I am, that I matter, that what would and I ask those questions. What would I do if I love myself here? If I was to act from a place of like truly loving myself, what would I say? Sometimes I'd say, because I fucking love my son to the ends of the earth. I am that mom that, like, yes, he can, we all can be messy, and I love him in it. Like, when I have to, like, reinforce him, I have to be the consequences to his choices sometimes. I always tell him my love's not on the line, and I still have to show up for this. But he knows that my love is never a consequence of me reprimanding him, or, you know what I mean? Like, disciplining
Yes.
him or any of
No,
that.
you
It's
know
never
that the
on the
love
line.
is there no matter what.
Yes. And I don't have to talk down to him, and I don't have to shame him to discipline him. And I think that's how
Yeah.
I talk to myself, is that I learned that, like, I can hold myself accountable for eating the donut, but I don't have to shame myself to hold myself accountable to eating the donut. Right? When I want to make
Yes.
healthy, loving choices for my body, right? Eating the
Exactly.
donut isn't the healthy, loving choice. It might be the emotionally in the moment dopamine choice. Absolutely. But it does, and it might be an emotionally eating choice because I'm missing my dad or something. Cool. I can be aware of all that. And it wasn't the best, loving, healthy choice if I'm loving myself. And I can say, you know what happened there? What would you need next time? And speaking kindly to myself and learning to do that, all of a sudden my body wants to eat the right things, and it wants to do these right things because it works, because it sits there, because it's connected. So that's the work. I've been in the work of loving
That's it.
myself actively. Yeah,
Yes, you sure do. And I love also what you highlighted around power. I just want to put a little more focus on it because power is a responsibility. And you connected specifically, power. I think you said, I know my power and that I matter. And those two things go together. And if somebody's hiding out and they're not wanting to make the changes to really own that they matter, it
yeah,
may be because they're scared of their own power,
yeah,
right? They're
absolutely.
scared of what's going to happen. I could upset a lot of people. I could like come out going, wow, like this crazy wild woman
Mm-hmm.
and be completely rejected by everybody that I know. But that's why all these other skills that you mentioned earlier, like boundaries and things and knowing when to speak, when to share, these are also part of it. But it is a choice. It's a choice to be in the place of I don't matter, and it's a choice to be in the place of I do.
Absolutely. And talking about responsibility, many people need to look at their program of this. So, a lot
Yes.
of times, responsibility, it's true. We are needing to be responsible. And what happens is, if responsibility was shamed, or like we were treated a certain way around responsibility, like blamed, shamed, projected on, which a lot of us were, then our responsibility program is corrupted. And it's like, we don't want that because it hurts us, because right. So you have to
Yes.
upgrade your responsibility program to, what would my responsibility to hold myself accountable, right? Be responsible, hold myself accountable, if it was fueled by love. And when it's fueled by love, it's safe, it's kind, it's clear, and it's boundaried,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so we oftentimes have to be like, to be responsible, we actually have to look at some of the old programming around responsibility and upgrade that in order to be in our power, right? In order to be okay for how people see us or misinterpret us or be in their own experience, because I'm not controlling their experience of me. My job is to stay connected to myself and to make sure that I love the choices I'm making. And if I love the choices I'm making and I'm completely aligned and expressed in the way that I know I want to be, then the freedom for them to respond is there. They can like it or not like it, because I honor my own authenticity and my own expression, so I can honor theirs, even when it hurts. Now, listen, a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
They don't have the skill of how to be in discomfort. They think you're causing their pain. I get it. But when you are connected to yourself, you can let them be in that experience without having to fix it. And when you don't get defensive, they then are like, and then they have to realize that's their world and they're operating from their world and they're making choices they need to make. But what happens is when we respond to that, we all of a sudden play into their storyline. We play into
Yes,
being
indeed.
responsible for them. And I'm going to be real, come back to your story. Come back to the author of your life. Come back to your connection, you being proud of you. And listen, when I'm not proud of me and I make mistakes all the time. My son is a great example of, when we're stressed and we're living life. I'm a single mom. I get it. I have days and I act out sometimes, right? Like, we have moments where I asked you this 6 times, and I stop myself. I have skills, right? I have skills to go, oh man, I'm raising my voice right now. And I do not like this version of me. And you know what, son, I'm going to need to take a break. And then I walk away. I do my work. I get regulated. I come back and I repair, right? I say, you know what? Mom could have made different choices. She raised her voice. She didn't need to do that. I'm so sorry. And I make amends and I hold accountable. And I say, what do I need for us to, do I need to do anything else to repair besides what I'm doing right now? Do you need a hug? Do you need something? And we repair, and I take ownership. And I love that I have the ability to do that, because we're going to mess up. And if I don't know, if I can't show up fully in the experiment because I'm going to mess up, because I don't know how to handle my mess ups, then get skills to handle it, right? Get skills to repair. Because when you
Absolutely.
can, you have way more freedom to express yourself and to be yourself and to tune in. Now, I'm better now that he's 11, where like, if I'm having a spicy day or I'm having a disconnected day or I'm overwhelmed or overstimulated or all of that, because I'm aware of my nervous system, I tell him when I pick him up, I say, you know what? I've had a really big, intense day. Can we just be quiet and listen to this very calming music for the next 20 minutes while we drive home? Because I'd like this as a reset before we get into our house. And he goes, yeah, totally, mom. Sounds cool.
You
Right?
have a great communication with him. You're taking ownership. And I mean, you're having repair conversations with 11-year-olds, right? Like,
Been
there's
having him
so
since he was
many,
4, but yes,
right,
yes.
people out there that can't even have one with an adult. And you're reaching him because you're showing up in your responsibility.
Mm,
So
thank you.
Stephanie, I'd love to keep going here, but let's go ahead and bring things to a wrap. But before we go, I know you have a super cool tool, talk about reprogramming, that
Yeah.
you want to share with our listeners. So please go ahead
Yes.
and tell them about that.
I'm so excited. So this actually came from a couple clients of mine that were like, "How did you learn to talk to yourself kindly?" Like, I don't have that great self-talk. I don't show up for myself. So I created a self-talk reprogramming resource where it's a bunch of phrases to say around your body, around your mind, how you position yourself. And it's a bunch of phrases. And what I recommend through it's a resource, so you'll get these phrases. I would love for you to record them in your own voice and then listen to it. And it actually helps us reprogram our internal dialogue, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we want to talk to ourselves. And as you start to do that, I promise you, it creates this internal landscape of trust with ourselves. It's so powerful, so simple, but so powerful. And so I hope it changes people's lives. If it makes a difference for you, please let us know. I love hearing how it impacts people's lives. And thank you, Tessa, for creating this awesome platform and being in this discussion and making ripple effects throughout the world. I'm just so honored to be here, and what a mirror you are. So thank you, Tessa, for
Oh,
being a courageous, awesome, powerful, embodied, like wisdom teacher and guide. You are amazing and brilliant, and what a cool platform for us to showcase this work.
thank you so much. I'm just really honored, to have you here as a guest and to be able to reconnect after a couple of years, of course. Yes, you're always in my heart. And I know we get really busy, as entrepreneurs. So listening to some of these juicier parts of your story also gives me this wonderful, reestablished and expansive view of who
Mm,
I already knew you as, this amazing woman, now even more
mm.
so. And I know people are going to love your gift. Thank you so much for that. And you're also on Instagram. Where else can they find you out there?
Yeah, I'm InfoCEO Mom on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Reach out to me. I do lots of different things on different platforms, but I would love to
Yes.
hear people's impact. This is what, sometimes we do a lot of this work and we don't get that feedback. So even something positive or something that you have a question on, I'd happy to hear from you. And thanks again so much for everything, Tessa, that you allowed me to be here today. I appreciate you.
You're so welcome. It was a pleasure. All right, that is our episode for today. The fabulous Stephanie Beebe, and I wish you to truly know how much you do matter, and not just because of the stuff you do in your life, but because of who you are, that soul. And I encourage you to listen to that depth of yourself, to listen to the beach that you are, that big container. All right, that's it for this week. I look forward to being with you again next week. Light and blessings. Bye bye for now.